As the cloaker would say, I know, I'm late. There's been some news in the last week or so for First World Bank for Payday 3, including a brand new dev update, an interview with one of Overkill's OG staff members, Ilya Petruzik, as well as a dev blog that had a bit more information from him and some design choices, things like that. There's not tons within that I want to talk about specifically, but I just want to bring you all up to speed on what we know about the heist, what we know about the upcoming update for Payday 3, and also, as it no doubt says in the title, share my personal anecdote about getting to see the heist early. It's not some big heist review, don't get your hopes up too high, but I did get to see it early. I've been sat on this little story for a while and I wanted to talk about it, so we will talk about that a little bit later in the video. But as always, before we get into it, if you are new to the channel or you find yourself coming back on the regular and haven't yet pressed subscribe, please do consider doing so because you'll be up to date on all Payday 3 news whenever it happens for all platforms, even though this time was slightly late, but that is a rare occurrence. And also, you'd help contribute to a really cool community that just keeps growing, and I really appreciate everyone who's already a part of it. And I've actually got some gameplay. I've realised that apparently this stuttering bug that happens when you're playing Payday 3, it's not necessarily tied to how many people are in your friends list, but more so how many people are active in your friends list. And right now, nobody in my friends list is active, so there's no stuttering, which means I can get some gameplay without any problems, so that's nice. Whether it means I can stream at the minute, I still don't know. I haven't been streaming Payday 3 for the last month or so. I might try this week and just see if there's a particularly quiet point when no one's online and see if it still works, but hopefully in the First World Bank update, we will get the fix for the stuttering bug, because I just want to stream the game again. My streaming activity in November has completely taken a nosedive. It's weird, it's almost like Payday 3 was kind of like the backbone of my streaming, even though I only played it once a week, and it not being there just, I don't know, man. It's strange. It really has impacted how often I'm streaming, so I want that to change. Especially considering that the first thing to talk about is obviously that the November hotfix that Starbreeze promised has not materialised. I'm assuming there's been some delay. I don't know if Almir might have mentioned it on his stream. I've heard that apparently he may have done that. I've not been following a lot of the Starbreeze streams because, as I've said before, they're not really things that I tend to watch. I get a lot of the information as a partner and share it, obviously, when I can, based on NDAs and all that. When there's big things to talk about in streams, or particularly notable streams, I'll watch and report them, but I don't have the energy to hear Almir answer the same questions over and over again every stream. That's nothing against him, it's just he's obviously going to talk about the same things if the chat keep bringing up the same things, so there's no real need to cover them. But with that in mind, let's bring you up to date on everything that's happening, and the first thing to talk about is the dev update, which came out in the middle of last week. And that dev update was actually a really cool one, not just because it gave you a bit of an insight into First World Bank, but I was just quite happy to see another OG Payday 2 staff member come back, Tobias Remmers, someone who was a lot more prominent in the Payday community for Payday 2. He worked on a lot of the later game ARGs for Payday 2 as well, so any of the kind of Silk Road, etc. campaigns that happened, any of the ARGs or puzzle teasers, he was the mastermind behind a lot of those, and he's now a heist producer on Payday 3. We hadn't really seen anything of him publicly since Payday 3 came out. I bumped into him at the studio when I was in Stockholm a couple of months ago, and he confirmed to me that he was, still working on Payday 3, because I wasn't sure if he'd moved teams or anything like that, but I'm glad to see he's still working on Payday. The dude loves it, and it's like I've said before, despite whatever Starbreeze may do, positive or negative, with the game overall, or what executives may choose, which I've talked enough about that, I'm not going down that road again, it's certainly not in today's video. Those devs care about Payday. Every single one of them does. Everyone I've met has a love for Payday and a love for the franchise and a love for the audience, and he's no exception. Tobias is a lovely guy, so I liked seeing him come back and talk about things. But it did confirm, as we all know, that the biggest part of this update is going to be the release of First World Bank. It is the third legacy heist after Cook-Off and Turbid Station, Murky Station in Payday 2, and just like those two heists, it brings back a classic heist from Payday 2, but it reimagines it. It changes some things around, basically to modernize it, because the difference is, especially with First World Bank, the first two iterations that we've had of it so far have been the same pretty much, maybe slightly visual changes. Overall, they could pretty much just pick up the heist in Payday the Heist and push it over into Payday 2, something that Ilya talks about in his interview with Almir, which was also featured in the dev update, and there's also a full version of that interview on YouTube. I've watched it in full, really interesting insight into early Overkill days from Almir and Ilya, so if you haven't watched that interview, please do go check it out. I'll link it in the description. It doesn't have very many views, so I'm just recommending it because I think it is well worth watching, so if you want to check it out, obviously go do that. I'm going to get spotted. Where is the power box? Am I just missing something here? To be fair, I haven't played Payday 3 in about a month. Like I said, with the stuttering bug, I haven't really been touching the game, and then Black Ops 6 came out, and as a lot of you seen my post, my mum had an operation recently, and I've been looking after her. Anytime I've not been looking after her, I've been playing Black Ops 6 because I've been really enjoying it, and I didn't really have a lot else I wanted to play at the minute, so I am kind of out of the zone on Payday 3 at the minute, so I'm trying to get myself back in before First World Bank comes out. But I think what's particularly exciting about First World Bank, not just the heist itself, which, I mean, I've waxed lyrical about it for a long time, and my list of heists I most wanted to see come back in Payday 3, First World Bank was always at the top, and there was a reason for that. There is something just so iconic about that heist, and the structure, the layout of it, and the fact that it feels like more than any other heist, possibly you may be able to say Big Bank, and I wouldn't blame me for that, but out of all the bank heists, it feels like the most quintessential bank heist in the bank robbing game. It just works so well, it flows very nicely. But Ilya and his team, Lion Game Lion, who you may know as the developers of Raid World War II, have been working on several things since Raid. He talked about it a bit in an interview I did with them a few years ago, but they've kind of been helping out with other teams and other projects. And one thing they've been helping out with is Payday 3, because they worked on Diamond District, which I think a lot of people can agree is one of the better heists in this game. That sandbox nature and the way that the heist flows, and you can kind of choose what you do, when you do it, how you do it, it's just really well organized. So knowing that that team are the ones working on First World Bank, I think is a really big win, because they know their stuff. Ilya is an OG, like I said, from Overkill. He was one of the original 8 founding members. He knows Payday better than a lot of the people even working on Payday 3 now. Not that they don't know Payday well, but you get my point. There's no one better equipped to know this stuff than he is. So I really like that he's come back to work on what is a really important heist for Payday 3. But with all that said and done, there are a couple of things I want to talk about with regards to Payday 3's version of First World Bank. First off, how does the map differ? Well, there are two big things. First off, the map's layout, and we haven't seen tons of this, and I can talk a little bit more about this later when I talk about having seen the map, but what we have found from little bits of dev update gameplay is that some things have changed. But one thing Ilya kept talking about in his interview, which I don't blame him for because it is definitely a good change, oh dear, please don't start stuttering again game, is the balconies in First World Bank, because that's one thing that he said since the game first came out with Payday the Heist, he's not loved the way the balconies were laid out because they kind of cut off the fluidity of the map. You can't go right round the upstairs area of the lobby because the balconies are blocked off by walls. So they completely opened it up and you can go around the whole area of the bank via the balconies now, which you couldn't do before, which I think is really good. The other thing is the secret, and that's the thing I want to talk about a little bit because I'm seeing people saying different things about it. Now, Tobias mentions in the dev update that Overdrill is one of the most infamous things for Payday the Heist's version of First World Bank. And also Payday 2's. I mean, it was in both versions of the game, and it's one of the only big heist secrets that allows you to do something that isn't explained at all in the game, but is still a really cool feature that gets you a big payday if you can pull it off with a good coordinated team. You place 4 players in particular areas in the back area of the bank, and it just gives you a secret drill that takes, I think, 30 minutes? I lost track of the time, but it gives you about 70 gold bags. So a huge payday, but for a huge amount of time spent in the game. But what about Payday 3? Well, I'm not getting the impression that that secret Overdrill is going to be in Payday 3 at launch when First World Bank drops this month. The reason I don't think it's going to be is because there was a Morse code segment that was translated from the dev update where the video kind of cut out for a second. Before that, Tobias says it's important to note and then gets cut off by this Morse code. And when you translate it, I believe it was Latin for "The secret is real 2025. Now that means that obviously some kind of secret thing that possibly pertains to First World Bank, I think it's most likely to assume it will do because they're talking about First World Bank when it happens, some kind of secret to do with it won't actually debut in Payday 3 until sometime next year. That's most likely going to be Overdrill, or maybe whatever they do. They may change it and do a different version of Overdrill in Payday 3, like how they've refreshed the whole map's layout and structure. It's possible they may do a different kind of secret. But either way, it seems safe to assume that Overdrill's not going to be in there at launch. I would expect that. If it suddenly turns out that I'm wrong and Overdrill's there, great, fantastic. But I don't personally think we're going to see it, and I'm going to go into it with that in mind. I think some people are probably going to be annoyed about that, but personally, I don't think it's as big of a problem as some people were going to make it out to be. Overdrill is a great thing, but it's not the reason I love First World Bank. That map is just fantastic to play through. It has got a fantastic gameplay loop. It's really fun. There's a good payout. It just feels like a really nice original concept that I greatly enjoy. And Overdrill not being there is not a big loss to that. It's a fun thing to do, but I never really did it very much. Maybe more of you out there did it more often than me and will care more about that, but I'm okay with it taking a while. And also the prospect of it possibly being different in Payday 3 interests me, because Overdrill was not readily available with Payday the Heist, if I remember correctly. I mean, I'm a little bit foggy on some of the details because I only became a fan with Payday 2 on the Xbox 360. With Payday the Heist, from what I'm aware, you couldn't get that secret immediately. It was built up across Payday the Heist, and you had to solve clues in an ARG between a whole range of heists in that game, and eventually it pointed you to First World Bank to do Overdrill. I would honestly be happy if they did something like that again, and they did a completely different secret. I don't think that'd be a bad thing, and it'd be something to keep players engaged with in Payday 3, which, let's face it, is something Starbreeze is desperate to manage with their players. They want people playing and talking about the game. What better way than to get a new version of Overdrill in 2025? I think that's fine. So whatever happens, I'm not too bothered if Overdrill's not in the game at launch, and I actually think that it could play out better for them next year. So as long as the heist itself is good, I'm not really too bothered about that. But with that in mind, let me talk a little bit about having seen the heist. Now, one thing I do want to set clarity on, I can't remember if I've already said this, but I'll say it again either way. Partners have now got access to First World Bank, the preview build of it. We got access about a day ago. I have not yet opened it, as typical. I don't tend to open it as soon as I get it. I wait until a bit closer to launch, so I'm kind of in the zone, can review it, and then drop the video, and then actually play it live. So for clarity, again, I have not played it, so I'm not talking about having played the heist myself. This is a separate story. And it's actually really cool, and that's why I just thought I'd share it, which is that while I was in Sweden a couple months ago, which if you are new to the channel, so make sure you subscribe, by the way, I greatly appreciate it. You might not know that I went over there to talk about some of the problems with ammo funnel that happened in summer, some of the stuff that I'd faced about it. It's a long story, and I really don't want to keep going over it because it is in the past. While there, I did the interview with Almir Andreas, Payday 3's new lead game directors, or interim game directors, I should say. But while I was there, one thing that did happen was I got to have a look at First World Bank early, and it was quite funny because Liz, the community manager, who's also like the influencer and partner manager, just mentioned off the cuff that they were working on some stuff around the studio. She was like, you might get a whiff of a few things people are working on while you go in the studio, like First World Bank. And I just looked at her as if to be like, excuse me? And she went, yeah, First World Bank, that's the next heist, just casually dropped it, because I didn't know it at that point, that was the one that was coming. I was hopeful for it, but I had absolutely no idea. They had a build ready to, well, showcase if I wanted to have a look at it, and she asked me if I wanted to see it. And obviously, with First World Bank being the heist that I wanted to play the most, I happily obliged. So I managed to have a look at someone's build on one of the computers. I don't remember the staff member's name. If you wanted me to share your name, please, I will happily put you out there. Thank you for letting me have a look at your version on your computer. But they allowed me to free cam and look around the heist. And obviously, like I said, while I can't review it properly, I haven't played it properly, but I've looked around the map. The one thing I will say is that visually, it's gorgeous. I've been sat waiting to share this because I wanted there to be more information and they wanted there to be more information as well. But genuinely, the heist is absolutely fantastic visually, and also those structural changes. You can see a couple, and one of them being those balconies Ilya's talked about, but you can also catch in the dev update that there is a new section behind the main wall in the front lobby, because normally you'd go behind there and there'd just be a bit of a back alley with some printers, the manager might be there. There's actually a staircase now that goes up and into the back of the bank, which you can kind of catch a glimpse of in that dev update. So I had a look, saw around that, and it just makes the visibility and maneuverability of that map so much better. One thing I will say is that Cook-Off, while it's a fun heist in Payday 2 and I really liked it, I do think it's better in Payday 3 because of that lower garage section they added, the scaffolding around the house. It makes the fluidity and the movement of the map so much better, and it works so much better in Payday 3 with First World Bank as well, just based on looking around. Like I said, I haven't taken a character around it. Yeah, sure, maybe it'll be different when you actually put a heister in there, but just looking at the structure, it's fantastic, and that's why I wanted to share, because I want to talk about something positive, man. I'm really tired of talking about the negatives oh, okay, well, I guess we're going loud. I'm really tired of talking about the negatives of Payday 3, especially with all the investor stuff and executives making the decisions they've done. I said, again, I've talked about this already. Those opinions have not changed. I still think that Payday 3 is not being given the support that it deserves, but I'm more interested in just being positive about the game for a bit and talking about some positive changes, because realistically, we can't change anything now. I've made my point. I've said what needs to be done for Payday 3, but I am just some content creator guy talking in his bedroom about a game I like. Executives do not have to, and most likely will not listen to me or the community. They will do what they want, but, you know, doesn't stop us making our voices heard. But the point being is that you know what I'm like by now. I'm a positive person who wants to stay positive about a lot of stuff, and I don't really feel like I've been able to do that very much with Payday 3 recently, and I want that to change. I want to be talking about the positives, and that's why I've been waiting to get this out and talk about First World Bank a little bit. It's a heist that I hold very near and dear to me, that I love a lot, and I'm glad to see it coming back in Payday 3. I think it's going to be a really cool addition to the game. So yeah, my overall thoughts on the heist is that just looking at it as a map, I think we're in for a treat. I'm excited to get in. They said there's going to be new objectives in the dev update. There's going to be new ways, like basically differences between the original heist and the modern version, which seems synonymous. It kind of worked like that, especially with Turbid Station. Like the stealth was slightly different, although it had that same structure, but it overall felt like a better heist. At least I think so personally. I think every legacy heist they've done so far, even though there's only 2 of them, has been better. I'm hopeful First World Bank will show that same progress, that same improvement from Payday 2 into Payday 3. So yeah, man, I'm just really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really cool, and that's why I thought I'd just share my thoughts on that and the fact that I got to see it a bit early, because it's a cool thing. I'm very grateful to them for showing it to me, and I'm just excited to see what the heist is like in execution. Like I said, I'll play their build soon, and I'll cook up a review. Obviously, you'll see that when it comes out, and hopefully, when that does happen, there'll be a fix to the stuttering bug. Beyond that, the only thing I want to fill you guys in on is just what else we can expect in the actual update, because there are a couple of other bits they talked about in the dev update, in case you've missed it. For one thing, there's going to be some new mask patterns and also weapon skins, 20 weapon skins and a series of mask patterns. It looks like the weapon skins is only going to be about 3 or 4 patterns with a lot of color variations, which, you know, is synonymous with Payday 3. You know, you add a suit and then there's 4 color variations and they're all separate, that kind of thing. So that's no change, but more customization is always good, so you can't complain there. There's also going to be some free cosmetics, the Teddy Moose suit and mask, which is based on a doll that had first appeared in the No Mercy heist in Payday the Heist and has popped back obviously in No Mercy in Payday 2, and also featured in the safe house, the original safe house in Payday 2. Not sure if it's also in the Payday 2 modern safe house, I can't quite remember, it wouldn't surprise me if it was, but it's one of those kind of synonymous little bits of Payday history that now is in a suit in Payday 3, which is just a nice little touch. I think any cosmetics are good, whether you like them or not. I think just getting more options for customization in this game is a big plus. And as I've said already, I still think, and I will keep championing, one of the things I really want to see as a suit option in the game is every heister's default suit. Imagine all the heister's default suits you can see in game as outfits you could equip on any character, but the difference would be, obviously to keep them unique, is they'd be different colors. So you could wear Dallas's outfit here, but it might be a black variant or a navy blue variant, and you can only get the base color variant when you're playing as Dallas. That, to me, I mean, I don't know how the game development works with suits, etc., but I imagine that's very cheap to implement because you don't have to make a whole new suit. You just have to repaint it and ensure that it fits correctly with the rigging of different character shapes, which mainly is just chains and then female models, right? I don't think there's that much difference beyond that. As long as you can make that work, I think that'd be a really cool addition, and you could add, what, 8 different suits to the pool with maybe a bunch of different color variations for very little cost. Don't know about time effort, but I just think that'd be a cool idea, and I haven't said it in a while, so I want to reinforce it. But the only other thing to mention is that there's apparently going to be some upcoming weapon changes. Tobias mentions it off the cuff in the dev update as though it's something you kind of already know is coming, and they haven't really talked about it, but as a result, they talked about there being some crosshair changes coming to the game, so you can customize the crosshairs a bit more, how different sections are sized, and whether the crosshair expands or shrinks, like stays static or spreads like this one based on recoil, etc. Basically just more accessibility, customization, that kind of thing. But that's about everything we know. They didn't mention Twitch drops in the dev update, but I'm still expecting they'll happen because it seems to be a thing with every update or just every month at this point in Payday 3. So I'm expecting Twitch drops will still show up in the update. But there you go. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about to fill you in with the Payday 3 news for First World Bank. Like I said, not tons, but I wanted to bring you all back up to speed and make sure you knew what was going on with the heist and just kind of catch up. And also play a bit of Payday 3, even if the gameplay was extraordinarily shoddy, because like I said, it's been a while since I've played and I'm a bit too used to Liberty Falls and not Fear and Greed. So, you know, I'm making do. But as always, if you've enjoyed the video, please do let me know what you think of it. Let me know what your thoughts are on First World Bank, whether you're excited for it, whether it's not really going to bother you too much, how you feel about the secret possibly not being in the game when the heist drops. Do you care that much about that? Are you going to be quite upset about it? Are you more just excited to have a new update for Payday 3? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below. Like I said, I think it's going to be a really exciting heist coming to the game, and just from what I've seen a little bit visually, I'm really excited to see it come to life in Payday 3 properly and get to actually run around and experience it. Either way, that'll wrap up this video here. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you all very soon with a new video. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.